Before delving into the importance of interior design to the user of a space, interior design refers to the art of enhancing the internal spaces of a building. This will involve designing and decoration. Now, interior designers would consider the functionality, the aesthetics, and the comfort of the user as well when designing the space. These factors are important because we spend a lot of time indoors, and in whatever space that we find ourselves in, the space needs to give us experiences that amplifies our souls and our spirits, because the way a space is planned and designed affects us in various ways that we might not even understand or even be aware of. It could affect us psychologically, it could affect us sensually. All these factors affect our mood. Hence the importance of interior design to a user or occupier of a space. So interior designers provide a wide range of services, and these include helping you to plan the budget of your space. They would also provide you with spatial planning of the space in question, and they would help you to select the kind of materials, the kind of finishings that you want to use in the space, the decorated pieces that you would need in the space. These items could be custom made or could be selected in various shops, which your interior designer would have to provide these services to you. Also on color consultation, the kind of colors you want to use in a space depending on the kind of space that is being designed as well. And then at the end of it all, they would provide you installation, so they would bring the design to life. So they would implement the design in the end of it all. In engaging the services of an interior designer, you would need to make a choice of the designer that you would like to go with. So ideally 3 to 6 months prior to the time you actually want to design implemented, you should have made a choice about who you'd want to work with. Now, as part of the consultation process with the interior designer, you would need to make a visit to the space in which the interior design is going to take place. For instance, you just bought a brand new house and you want to do a whole new interior design of the spaces within the building. So you go there with your interior designer so that the person can see the space and can also envision some of the things they would like to put in the design. Now, prior to this, you should also have a fair idea of how you want the space to look like, so that when you consult with the interior designer, you can actually have a discourse on how you would want your space to be like. So this could be in the form of Pinterest images or pictures of places that you have actually been to that you like. So all these help to inform the interior design. This is also another reason why you need to consult the interior designer, so that it gives both of you ample time to be able to come up with a good design of the spaces. Now, after all the consultation and the visit to the building and the spaces done, the interior designer will now go back, sit down, and come up with a mood board or inspiration based on your preferences, which they would show to you and gain your input from. You might want some changes made or some additions here and there, and the person will now go back and then actually come up with the real design after all the discussions are settled. So in the design, this could come in the form of spatial planning. So you have plans and maybe some sections of the interior, how the space is actually going to look like, because you need to see and agree and be okay that this is how you want your space to be like. So the person will deliver these to you in a presentation format. So as part of this too, there could be 3D visualizations or 3D visualized images of how the space is going to look like. This is to give you a perception of how the interior of your building would actually come out like when it's done. Yeah. So after all of this is done and you have agreed on your interior design, then you can actually come to the implementation phase. Now, in the implementation phase is when you would actually have your design brought to life. All the things you and your designer decided on and came up with will now be brought into life. And depending on the kind of agreements you would have, either your interior designer would serve as the contractor to do the implementation of the design on your building, or a third-party contractor will be brought in, or you yourself would serve as the contractor and bring in all the suppliers, and you might want to go and buy all the items near the space, which might be a bit of a headache. But those are all the jobs of the interior design. It depends on the kind of agreement that you have. And also within that time, you will be making visits to the spaces, you'll be making inputs, because maybe new ideas might be coming. And so all of these things will be put in place, and then finally your design is brought into life and you can actually move into your new home. It's very important that you allow a professional to handle the interior design of your space, because what is the point in acquiring the most beautiful furniture pieces and the best of materials and finishes, and at the end of the day you do not allow the experts to handle it in order to give you the value for the money that you spend in making all these acquisitions, and also the satisfaction that you require? Because interior designers are the experts who have all the knowledge and will be able to deliver meaningful spaces that suit your preferences. So it's always advisable to consult an expert or a professional in handling the interior design of your space, because a lot of knowledge goes into the design of a space. There are so many factors to consider: the functionality of the space, the scale of the space, the look and feel of the space. Interior designers are the experts who will be able to handle all these. So in the interior design of a residential space, a number of factors will need to be considered by the professional. Now, some of them would include the purpose of the room. In a residential space, you could have a kitchen, a bedroom, dining area, living area, storeroom, the bathrooms, and all of these would be designed differently because they serve different purposes. Now, the next thing to consider would be the climate and then the environment. This is because every building is located in a different place, and hence the specific climate and environmental conditions will need to be considered in the design of the space. These affect the decision on the kind of textures, the kind of colors that would be used in designing the space. Now, another thing to consider would be the cost. Different materials come at different prices. Different furniture pieces also come at different prices. So the cost is also very important. Hence the need to create a budget right from the start to know how much you are working within. Aside these, other factors are also considered, such as the lighting and the lighting fixtures. For the lighting, for instance, natural day lighting, the use of artificial lighting, the colors and textures, as I have mentioned as well, The personality and the preferences of the clients are also considered as well by the professional in designing the interior of the residential space. So to the question on how often you should change the interior design of your space, it's a matter of choice. At times your needs will change, and so you would also need to change the interior of a space. For instance, a room that used to serve as your child's room may no longer serve you that purpose anymore because your child has moved out of home, and you'd probably need to use that space as a home office. Hence, that's when the professional will come in to redesign the space for you as such. There are certain instances where certain decorative pieces you may have acquired during your first interior design have memories attached, certain childhood memories, certain memories that you treasure, and so in this case it will be more advisable to seek good maintenance practices so that you can actually maintain the spaces that you have in your interior of your building. So interior design can actually promote the functionality of a space. Let's take for instance, you are designing your home office. There are a number of factors you need to consider. For instance, you have a window within the space. It would affect how you are going to position your desk. And you may have to position it in a way such that if you are using your laptop, you don't have glare from outside coming in. And with the same window as well, you probably have to consider it in the sense that because you will be working most of the time, there will be times that you just need a break to just zone out of your work. You can look through the window, and probably there's a beautiful garden outside you can look onto. That also goes a long way to influence the space. And also ambient lighting as well. Artificial lighting needs to be considered. There are some days you might use your home office at night, and because it's a space you actually want to concentrate and then working, you need the space to be free from distractions. So you may consider soundproofing the space as well. The colors, the textures, the materials are also very important in the design of the space. The kind of furniture that you use in the space is also very important. All of these are going to affect your well-being within the home office that you are planning on having an interior design for. And all these factors come together and would promote your productivity, because you should be able to walk into your home office and feel comfortable, but at the same time it should be a space that you can work in, and that is very important for a space such as a home office. So let's take a scenario where you have a small room in which you want an interior design done. So for instance, this room is a small bedroom, and in designing the space you need to consider that you wouldn't have the luxury of having too many things in the room. So you first need to make sure that you have just the essentials in your room, and you take advantage of using some of your furniture pieces to serve dual purposes. So it's good to have multi-purpose furniture. For instance, a bed that has storage underneath. Yes, that could be a good way to avoid crowding your room with too many things, because already the room is small. And you also have to consider lighter textures and lighter tones in terms of the colors and the finishes that you want to use in the room, because already the room is small and you do not want to give it that heavy feeling. Now the other thing you would have to consider is if you have a window, and you try as much as possible not to overcrowd the window area in order to give the room a bit of depth, so that the room does not feel smaller than it already is. Yes, and in case you would want to do some ornaments or some ornamental arrangements, you could consider glass pieces. Because the room is small, you don't want to have all this heaviness in the room, so glass pieces would help to give an illusion of a free space, and they also easily blend within the space. And instead of heavy tapestry and drapery, you could consider using blinds as well to enhance the space. So in the choice of interior design, yes, people's personality traits are often reflected in their interiors and the kind of things they want, because everybody has different preferences and different tastes. So everyone would have different kinds of interior designs at the end of the day. So for instance, you could enter someone's living room. The person has throw pillows, bags, blankets, very beautiful pieces that are really enhancing the space. And this could give you an idea that this person is a very welcoming person. It could be so, it could also not be so. Our personalities are very much affected by the space that we live in and by how we were brought up. So many factors, how we behave, and other factors come into play to make up our personality. So the space in which we find ourselves in could influence our personality, and our personalities as well, our choices, our character traits could also influence the kind of space that we want. Another situation, you enter some living rooms and they have different levels of seating. That is to categorize who sits where. Some people like to separate their family areas from the main living room. All these things are desires that come from our personality traits. Yes, we could be aware of them, or they could just be things that we do or are part of us unconsciously. So being different people and coming up from different backgrounds would definitely determine how our interior design would turn out like, based on our different preferences. So often people wonder how an interior designer is able to know exactly what the client wants. This happens at the early stage where there is an engagement between the client and the interior designer, and the client is able to tell the interior designer exactly what they want or give them a fair idea of what they want. So that stage is very important in able to deliver what the client wants, because the interior designer has all the knowledge and the expertise needed to deliver the interior design. But for delivering according to the client's taste, according to the client's satisfaction, it is important that right from the onset, the client's preferences and needs of the space that has been designed are known in order to deliver a good design that fits our clients. So at what point should you consider bringing on an interior designer in your project? So for instance, if it's a new project, ideally your architect would handle the design of the spaces, but you may prefer to bring in your interior designer of your choice. But every good architect is able to design the interior of the space, because in creating the plans and the spaces, architects consider the look and the feel of the space, which all comes with interior design. And this is very important at the early stage, because some of the decisions that the architects make could influence what the interior designer may actually have in mind. For instance, positioning of certain windows and certain outdoor features like gardens that are going to influence the internal spaces would also need to be considered. So in all of these things, you need to bring on board your request for interior design at an early stage, so that your architect or your interior designer could work hand in hand in order to deliver the best of service to you. So now to the question on whether it is expensive to contract the services of an architect for the interior design of your space. So architects provide interior design services as add-ons, and every good architect is capable of providing you the interior design that you require, because in the spatial planning, as architects do, they consider the interior of the space, the positioning of windows, the positioning of doors are all factors that are considered in how the internal spaces are going to look like and feel, as well as how functional they are. So architects don't only deal with the functionality of the space, they also think about the look and the feel of the space for the clients as well. So it's not so expensive to contract an architect to undertake the interior design of a space. It comes on as an add-on service that could be a small percentage of what you have already paid for regular architectural services, and it's a bonus to you to have that service done by the same person who designed your building for you.